It is PackReacts, and the year is about over, folks. 2022. We move on to a 2023. Hello, folks. I'm your co-host Jeremy Hadler, along with Mike, and today we'll be talking about the Packers' path to the playoffs still, and we'll be going through the Packers Dolphins game, talking about the Packers Vikings game this upcoming weekend, a big match for the Packers. Hopefully, they make it to playoffs. The Devontae Adams might want out of Las Vegas, maybe. Zadarius Smith returns to Green Bay for the first time, and Nathan Hackett, the Packers' former offensive coordinator, got fired in Denver. So let's talk about this Dolphins game. What were some of your takeaways, Mike, in this game?
I think it was much better than we all expected in the second half, at least. The first half was kind of what we thought going in terms of it was kind of an up and down game where, they gave up some big plays on defense,
Yep.
and Waddle had that big touchdown catch that they couldn't seem to get him down on. Jair took like a horrible approach with him on the tackle. He should have got him, but it probably wasn't the worst thing to let him score there.
Yeah.
They probably would have scored anyway, and if anything, it caused them to score quicker. Um, but yeah, so kind of the first half you feel a little bit uneasy, but they kind of stuck around. They
Yep.
got that score to make it 7-7, and I think it got to what 17-7, I believe. It was
Yes.
definitely a two-score game at some point, right?
Yeah, it was a
Uh,
two-score game, and then Crosby kicks that like halftime field goal right at the end of the first half.
right, to make it 17-10. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. So, they kept it close, and then in the second half, they kind of came out, firing. The offense looked pretty good. The defense looked good, but don't forget the defense kind of got helped by Tua a lot. There's three
Yeah.
back-to-back drives with interceptions in a key part of the game where he may or may not be concussed at that point. So,
Yeah.
I'm not writing home this defense at all and say that
Not sure.
a lot of those passes were thrown right to them. But they still got to catch the ball. So I can't take that away from the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm not gonna say it was a dominant defense performance by
No.
any means. But they got the job done, which is all you need to do.
Exactly.
And now you come home for two games where I think they're both going to be tough, but I think they're both winnable. They're division games, so they're common opponents that you know. And I think we like Roger said on McAfee show, we're all Browns fans this week.
Yep. Go
I'm not sure.
Browns.
Is Deshaun Watson going to play?
He's gonna play,
Okay, so
but they have
how's he been playing? Not really that great, right?
no. He has not been playing that great. They have Carson Wentz going for the Commanders. I know that,
Right.
but
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Watson he hasn't been playing that great. He's still rusty coming into this year, which we all expected him to be.
Right. Um. So yeah. So I think it was about as good as you could have asked for, I guess.
Yep.
I don't think anyone thought that the Packers were going to dominate that game, but just needed the win.
Yeah.
So if they can win, somehow the Browns pull it out, or the
Cowboys.
Cowboys have a reason to play next week, which I don't really see as possible. So it could be tough. Even if we win
Yeah.
these two games, that it is possible the Commanders win both games. But they're having their own issues, like you said, with
Yeah.
Wentz and quarterback, and they had to sit Heineke. I still think their defense is better than probably both these teams they're going to face, other
Yeah.
than the Cowboys. But the Cowboys are probably going to sit a lot of guys, right? So,
Yeah.
I think their defense could probably win both of those games alone, even without Wentz really carrying the load there. But it's to be determined. All you could ask for at this point. We're basically in the best position we could ask for 2-3
Yeah.
weeks ago. But
Exactly.
imagine, just think about this real quick. Imagine if the Packers would have beat the Commanders, just one game, right? What the different situation we would have been in right now.
Exactly.
And if they would have beat the Jets or just one of these games, the
Yep.
Lions, right? Uh, just one of those games run it differently. I think we'd be in the driver's seat now. Now I don't think we'd win the what do you call it? Won the division or
No.
been anything other than a 6 or 7 seed. But still, we'd probably be winning in instead of having to get two games. And so just one game you could see can completely change the kind of the course of the season. And that's why I always say tiebreakers are huge, right? Like,
Yep.
because these tiebreaker games, which is what the Commanders and the Giants game were. The Jets game wasn't a tiebreaker game, right? But the
No.
Commanders, the Giants, and maybe
And
the Lions, right?
yeah.
And the Lions. Those games, they don't really count for one game. They count for two games, right?
Yep.
Because If you get that, like the Buccaneers, right? Once we kind of beat them there, it's very unlikely they kind of like surpass us completely. Now, granted, if they were playing like the Buccaneers of last year, they would have by far surpassed us, right? But like
Yes.
if you're in like kind of this same wavelength almost of like success in the season, if
Yeah.
you can beat them head to head, it's basically very tough to, you completely have to, have a better record than them. It can't be tied or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's a huge advantage, and that's kind of what we're seeing with the Redskins. I'm sorry, the Commanders, um, and why we're at the disadvantage there. Now, I thought the tie was going to help in Week 1. Or sorry, the first tie against the Giants Commanders.
Commanders. Yeah.
And I think it does in some ways. And you want to talk about this real quick?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
What the and you did a lot of research on this, so
Yes.
feel
So
free to jump in if you don't
yeah.
agree with me. But the
Yeah.
way I see this, right, is it took the reason why I wanted that first tie was it took the tiebreaker away from both teams, the Commanders and the Giants. So it kind of left two paths open, right, for the Packers.
Yes.
Because if one of those teams won, now they got an extra win, right? And
Yes.
they both have the tiebreaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, you basically would put all your eggs in one basket, basically, right? Whoever the loser is, they have to really do bad, right?
Yeah.
Looking back on it, it probably would have been better for us if the Giants won that game
Yes.
because the Commanders would have lost, and I think we'd have the same record right now,
Yeah.
right? But they would have been above us because of the tiebreaker. But if we won, but see that I don't think it matters then.
Well, where I looked at, and I did this with the video. If you guys haven't already seen my predictions of like how Packers can win scenarios, basically the Giants are only a factor if we win out. That's the only scenario. Is if we
No, yeah,
lose,
I know. Yeah, I
that's
agree.
that's the only time. But no, what you're saying, I think it helps a little bit of that tie because then basically you're forced to. Let's say you were saying that Giants won. Then you're forcing the commit. Then we're basically hoping that the Commanders somehow choke the entire time. We're focused
Right,
on one team,
exactly. Right, you're
but now we
focused
have
on one team.
but now you
But
have 2.
yeah, so I don't think there's any downside to that tie, and I'll tell you why. Because even if they got a loss, right, they'd be the same record as us, but because of the tiebreaker, they'd be
Yeah.
above us, right?
Yeah.
So what the tie did was it took the tiebreaker away. Yeah, they're gonna beat us if we have the same record, but they were gonna beat us the same record either way. I know we're not gonna have the same record. I'm saying the same amount of wins, I guess, right? Because what the tie does is it takes away a loss and puts in a win or a tie, right? So a tie is worth more than a loss.
Yeah.
But you have the same amount of wins, right? If you have, it doesn't matter what your losses are or your tie because if there's only one tie, obviously if there's two ties and it changes
Yeah.
it. But if there's one tie, you're gonna lose anyway because of the tiebreaker. I'm saying because they have the
Exactly.
tiebreaker. So what that did was now it gave the Giants and the Commanders we ability to get in on both those teams was that tie. So I think the first tie really helped us actually a lot. Actually, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but it definitely helped us. It was better than
Yeah.
one team winning over the other.
Definitely.
The second tie would have hurt us though, and I'll tell you
Yeah.
why. That would have hurt us actually a lot, and I was almost rooting for that, but it's good that that didn't happen because uh, neither team would have got a loss, and it actually would have been basically a win for both teams. So a tie would have been the worst case scenario actually for the second one. For the
Yeah.
first, this is a very interesting scenario because I'm into these scenarios a lot.
Yes.
But
Yes. You
I
are.
think for the first one it helped us because it took away the tiebreaker,
Yep.
right? Like I just said. The second one would have really hurt us because no team got a loss and the tiebreaker was out the window anyway.
Exactly.
So it was a good thing that one team won that second round. I mean, what's the chances that both they tie twice in one season? But um, basically now that first tie allows us to somehow get in over the Giants in theory. Very unlikely.
Yeah.
The second tie would have completely, I think, wiped out both teams almost.
Yeah.
I think it'd been really difficult to get in if you got that second tie.
Exactly. I mean, now, like as I was mentioning before, what are the hypothetical scenarios for the Packers is really we need the Commanders to lose one, and I'm really hoping it this week because we have no idea if the Cowboys what they're gonna if they're gonna rest any of their stars, and I hope they win tonight and Philadelphia loses this week, but I highly doubt Philadelphia loses to
Yeah.
the Saints. So
Right.
best chances you're praying that Mike McCarthy gives you a New Year's miracle or gives you a present, a late Christmas gift to you is like, hey, we're gonna play our stars, we're gonna win the ball game so you make the playoffs.
Yeah.
That it's all into like Mike McCarthy's hands almost if Commanders win.
Problem is, though, I think somebody did some research on this. I kind of just take this at face value. I haven't done much research, but apparently Jerry Jones has been like against playing starters when you have everything locked up. And I know that's technically a coach's decision, like you said, it's technically on McCarthy. But if the Cowboys have a, what do you call it, so much history of resting people when it doesn't matter. Which, like you said, if the Eagles win, it doesn't matter, right? Because they're locked in the fifth seed.
Yeah, they're
So
they're
like,
basically locked in.
yeah, and I don't see them. The only way they're not locked in is if the Eagles lose, they win, right, this week. And
Yes, because you need the Eagles to lose out, and then you need the Cowboys to win out. That's the
right,
only because they're a game behind. But since it's basically yeah, so if they lost, the Eagles will still be ahead by one game. But if Eagles lose out, then Cowboys win out, then Cowboys take over.
yeah. So what's interesting to me, right, is actually not only do you need the Eagles to lose this game, right, but you actually need them to lose next week too, because the Cowboys and the Commanders play in the Sunday night game next week. So the Eagles game would have happened already, right? So now I know that's not really a great way to think about it because usually you have your game plan set up, so you're not going to know what happened there. So if they're technically in it, you would think that they'd play their starters based off the week. But you could always say, like, they're going to know if they have anything to play for or not, the Cowboys, by the time they actually kick off.
I mean,
And go ahead.
I'm wondering if so. You're telling me that next Sunday night football, not this upcoming, but next Sunday is the Commanders Cowboys. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be right. I'm wondering that might get switched if the Packers win and the Packers play the Lions because the Lions might have something to play for.
Well, when can they switch it to? I know
Uh,
the last week it can. Is it the week before?
they could switch.
Week
I think they could switch it
17
now.
Sunday
They
night.
they could switch it now. I believe. I'm
So
pretty sure
it's
they
week
can.
18. I think it's probably the week before.
I'm wondering if like theoretically you could switch it. You could flex that game right then there. Like yeah, they could theoretically flex that because I know they're doing the Ravens Steelers game, but usually we would find out at like Sunday night football. We would find out about it. Of like this Sunday, we would find out. Of like right before halftime, we would know about who's game flex and whatnot.
So
So
for
yeah,
week 18, two Saturday games and Sunday night game will be announced no later than 6 days prior to January 9th. So yes, they absolutely can still do it. So they have till um, 6 days prior is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the third of January.
yep.
So yeah, so they definitely can change it. But in order for the Packers Lions to be a playoff game, I think the Packers need to win. The
Mm-hmm.
Commanders need to lose,
Yep.
and
And
the Lions need to
Lions,
win,
yep.
or the Lions need to lose. No, the Lions need to win,
I think
right?
they need to win because then people get interested. Because then, I mean, it's still
Yeah,
like
yeah, the Lions.
even if the Lions lose, it's still like the Lions could like beat the Packers and the Lions still get in. But like it would make more of an audience then if like the Lions win. So then you're kind of like, and the Packers win, then you're kind of like, all right, we have to put this up because both teams just won. So then you get more fans to watch the game and all.
So the Commanders get eliminated if the Packers win, the Lions win, and the Commanders lose.
Yes, one game. So if Commanders lose one game, let's say to Cowboys, for goodness sake, let's say they lose to the Cowboys, Packers beat the Vikings, beat the Lions, boom, we're in. Now, what the most important, now you could theoretically lose to the Vikings, but it would really hurt our chances a lot. Like very, like you're really not going to make it. The one that you have
Yeah,
to definitely
absolutely.
win if you want to make the postseason is the Lions because that decides like the strength of schedule or the whatever. It's not head to head. I don't know why, but it's like the tiebreaker it gives us.
Wait, say again.
So if the one that the Packers have to win, they have to beat the Lions because that's the tiebreaker decider basically.
Well, yeah,
So the
because we
Packers,
lose two to them, right? So
yeah.
then we lose the tiebreaker. If we beat them, then we're
So we would
tie on a tiebreaker.
yes, but given the I think it's a strength of schedule, whatever like the opponents, whatever one of the tiebreaker scenarios, we would get it because we have the better record. So
Right.
if the let's say the Packers lost to the Vikings somehow, we would need the we would have to beat the Lions.
Right.
We would need the Commanders to lose out and the Bears to beat the Lions this week, and Seattle loses another game.
Right. Yeah. So for us this week, the Lions game actually doesn't mean anything at all, which
Not
is
really.
interesting. Not really. It doesn't mean anything at all because you're right. Like if the Packers win next week, I mean, if the Lions lose this week but then win next week, they're in. So
Yeah,
the Lions game means nothing at all. So the only games that mean something for the Packers this week, the
the Commanders.
Packers, Commanders, Giants. Well, actually, the Lions game could mean something if they lose. So I guess they could lose.
That's what yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
technically it is like if we were to beat the Vikings and then we tie with the Lions, then the Lions would have to lose to the Bears, the Commanders would have to lose out, and Seattle would have to lose one game.
All right. Yeah. So right. So the Packers technically lose this week and still get in, but it's like not gonna
Exactly.
happen. Right. Interesting. Right.
Yeah.
So, but the most realistic scenario is they have to win both games. But if they
Yeah.
lose next week, they're completely out.
Yes. Completely done.
Right. Right.
There's
So
no way.
there's no way they could get in if they lose next week. Right.
If they lose to the Lions, there's no way we're getting in.
Yeah.
That's like
That
you
makes
have
sense.
to win, but it's really like, do you really want to afford a loss to the Vikings and then
No.
you
No.
just like kind of like roll the dice like, oh, I hope I get a chance. Like, no,
No.
no,
Either way, they need to win both games. It's not going to happen the other way. So
definitely.
yes, that makes sense. So right. So really, we don't really care about the Lions this week. We only care about the Browns and in theory the Colts. But I don't think
Exactly
that's
my
going to
point.
happen.
No.
So yeah. So that I think we all know that. So you know the Browns play at 1 o'clock. So we'll have a game to or the Browns Commanders at 1. So we'll have a game to watch then, and we'll have a game to watch at 4:25 at the Packers.
Yes.
And hopefully next week we'll be talking about a win and in game
Exactly.
or a win and hopefully the Commanders lose, but I think if the Commanders are going to lose, it's probably going to be this week. I agree. I think they'll probably beat the Cowboys.
That well, this is where I think who was it? I think it was Wes Hoskins I was watching earlier of like Packers beat or something like that. And what he was saying was Taylor Heineke gives the Commanders the best chance of winning. It's like you have Jimmy Garoppolo, like he'll help give you the better chance, but you want to start Trey Lance because he's the better talent. But with Carson Wentz, he's 2-4 as the start of the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But both their games are home, right? The Commanders, so that's unfortunate. But both our games are home, so the
Yeah,
Giants are both, or sorry, one game's away, one game's home.
that's Colts is the Colts game's at home. The other game is in Philly.
Yep. And I don't think the Eagles will have anything to play for then. So I mean, I think it's going to be tough. I still don't think the Packers are going to make it into the playoffs, but it's possible.
Yes.
But we'll have to see.
Mike, give me
What's in
1
the
second.
cards. Yeah,
Give me
no
1
worries.
second. All right.
I'll run the stream. So let's see. Let me see if I can share my screen here and see what we're looking at. So let me just see if that's working. But what I can do is that I could kind of show us what we're looking at for this week and kind of what we're seeing. Doesn't seem like it's sharing. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Seems like Jeremy's the good one at streaming here. I thought it would work, but I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe only the host can see it, unless I have to click this button. Do I have to click that button? Yeah, doesn't I think only the host can do it. So sorry about that, but no, I think it's going to be a good week of football this week. Let's see what other games are going on. So let's just talk about the standings real quick, and then
All right, I'm back. Sorry
you're
about that.
back. No, you're good. I was trying to see if I could share my screen, but it doesn't say. Maybe only a host can do it.
Do you want me to share my screen?
Can you let me share my screen? I was going to see if, or let's see. Let's tell me if
You?
you see my screen.
Yes, I'll add it right here.
Oh, so you have to click a button.
I have to click a button.
Got it. So now you can see.
Yes, I can see now.
All right.
It's on now.
So here's what I was gonna do for if anyone was interested. But I was gonna just see. I know this is a Packers podcast, but let's see if we can just kind of see what other things are on the and your research, Jeremy. You only were doing for the Packers, right?
Yes, I was only doing for the Packers.
So I think some interesting things is look at the Jaguars rise. I like the on New York Times how they have these like graphs here.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to the Lions, where you see they kind of rose a little bit, but look at what the Jaguars have done recently.
Yeah.
They got a good chance just because their division's trash. This is kind of similar to like the AFC, both the Souths, the NFC
Yes.
South and the AFC South are terrible, right?
Exactly.
And it's been interesting to see kind of what the Jaguars are doing. So let's see kind of what they're playing for this week. So they're playing the Texans, but that's interesting. A win doesn't really do anything for them. It
It's
seems like either way, it's going to come down to this Week
it's gonna,
18 game.
that's gonna be the division decider basically.
Yeah, and I bet you this is the game that they flex into.
That might be
Yeah,
the game. That's what
this
I'm
is
thinking.
this is going to be it. So I think I misspoke. So I think the reason why I thought the Commanders and the Cowboys were the night game was because it's like at the bottom of the list here.
Hmm.
But if you see here, it's also 1 o'clock. So I don't think they've determined that yet. But um, so let's see. So if everything goes right for the Jaguars, they still only have a 68% chance. So really, it's just going to come down to next week, right? Because if you just get rid of all this, they win regardless. What they're playing for this week is if they lose, if they can get in. So this is interesting. It's kind of like what the Packers played the Titans. Sorry, Packers played the Titans a few years ago, where the Week 17 game didn't mean much because the Week 18 game was really the deciding factor.
Yeah.
You know, so that's gonna be interesting. So I would say the Jaguars have a good chance.
I
But
think they make it. I think they will make the playoffs.
yeah, and yeah, I think they do because I think they have it's home. This is a home game,
Yep.
and even if they lose, in theory, I mean they're definitely gonna. I think they're gonna win this game. So let's see. Let's just see if we take the most case scenario. So probably I could see the Jets losing in Seattle. The Ravens gonna beat the Steelers. The Bills gonna beat the Patriots. And then I could see the Jets beating the Dolphins, but maybe that's unlikely, I guess. But they need all these things to happen, so it's just pretty unlikely. So basically, it really comes down to this game. They need every single thing here to happen.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, so that's the Jaguars. So that's an interesting thing to know. So AFC South's going to come down to basically that last game.
Hmm.
Um, the wild card in AFC is interesting just because the Jets, who I thought had a great chance to make the playoffs, and
That's so
now
true.
basically they got a worse chance than the Packers to make the playoffs. Look at that.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy how the Packers, we thought they were dead in the water, but compared to all these other teams that are on the bubble,
Yeah.
we have the best chance,
Interesting.
right? Like,
Do we have a better chance than Miami Dolphins? I like to know.
no, the Dolphins have a better chance,
Yeah. Okay, that would have been funny though.
but they're right now a playoff team because you got one. Sorry, so this is one wild card. This is two wild cards. So they're the third wild card,
Hmm.
right? So the Packers have the best chance of a team that's not in the playoffs currently to make the playoffs, other than like a divisional team,
Hmm.
right? Like this, which I'm not going to count, right? Like these teams only have a chance to make. Well, I guess one of these teams could be a wild card team, but I think it's
I
unlikely,
I doubt it.
right? So, Um, it seems like the Packers have the best chance to make the playoffs, other than that are not currently in the playoffs. So that, I mean, that's good. That's great news.
Yeah.
I think we got it kind of lucky with that strength of schedule tiebreaker. If it
Me
wasn't
too.
for that, we would have been screwed, you know.
Yeah, definitely would have.
And I think that largely because the fact we played the NFC East this year, and we played the AFC East.
Well,
All no, they don't really have any good bad teams in any of these divisions, you know.
when we only beat one team in the NFC East, which surprises me, when we usually go 3 out of 4.
True.
That's the interesting thing. And then we go, I believe, 2-2 in the AFC East,
Right.
which usually is
Patriots and
3 out.
Dolphins. Yep.
Usually it's a 3 out of 4.
Right. So let's see. Let's look at the Dolphins real quick. So Tua is probably not going to play this week, right?
No way,
So
he can't.
I see the Patriots probably winning that,
Yeah.
and then so the Patriots have a decent chance. So I'm curious about the Jets. Let's see if the Jets could get in because I live in New York. So I want to see if the Jets. Damn it. And then so if the Jets win the Seahawks, I know I picked the Seahawks, but let's just see this for. So if they win out, they have an 83%. What else do they need to have happen? They need the Dolphins to beat the Patriots,
Yeah,
or the Bills
that's
to beat the Patriots, which I think that happens there,
Bills beat the Patriots. So yeah.
unless they sit their starters,
No.
which
No,
is unlikely because they need the first
because
seed, right?
that's between the Bengals, which that's me that Monday night game. That's be a huge game between the Bills and Bengals.
Oh wow, that's a Monday night game.
That's a Monday night game. That's the
Oh
best
wow,
Monday night ever. So there's that, and then I have no idea with the Chiefs because I know the Bills have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. I don't know. I think the Chiefs have the tiebreaker over the Bengals, which would be funny if the Bengals beat the Bills because then it's like, all right, Bengals kryptonite is the Bills, Bills kryptonite is the Chiefs, and the Chiefs can beat the Bengals. It's like a whole circle, which would make me laugh at that.
interesting. All right, so but the Bills are gonna have something to play for Week 18, I guess, is our
Yes,
because there's no way the Chiefs lose to the Broncos, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it's possible, but yeah, I mean, this is a big game. But either way, even if they lose, they still have something to play for.
exactly,
So, yeah, so I think I'll stop sharing. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I
definitely.
think the Jets actually have a decent chance to make it. They just got to beat the Seahawks, and then they got to beat the Dolphins.
Yes, I think they. I mean, as a Packer fan, I kind of want to hope for the Jets to beat the Seahawks, just in case if like all hope is doomed if we lose to the Vikings. You might as well have to root for the Jets, but it's like at the same time, really won't matter that much. So, yeah,
Right. You would need the only way the Seahawks game matters is if the Lions lose, right? Because
if we, yeah,
if
if
they
the line,
win, or I
if
don't
the,
know,
yeah,
whatever. We're not. That's not going to happen. So let's forget that part.
So what I want to talk about on this is Keyshawn Nixon, the Pro Bowl. He's like the best kick returner if he started all year. That's my bold claim. But just watch this clip. It's so great, and I've been waiting for this because the last time he didn't get a touchdown here, but the last time the Packers got a kickoff return touchdown was Randall Cobb right after he won the Super Bowl. That's just crazy ever since. Where was that in the Commanders game? Because stinking Amari Rogers blew it for us of that fumble return there of that punt. That's my question. He should have been
Yeah,
started, and that would have helped us beat the Commanders.
I think either Lafleur brought it up or somebody else brought it up that he was almost too fast for his own good there. Because if you saw the two guys kind of came this way,
Yeah.
and he's like running himself to the sideline. If he
Mhm.
just probably would have stopped, let the block come in, and go that way, he probably would have scored.
He probably would have.
You know, he was just I don't know why he didn't slow down and try to get back inside, but no, I mean that was a great play. Unfortunately, we only got 3 points off of it though, so they weren't able to finish it. But I think it's also something to be said that they didn't waste a ton of time. Kind of, I said it with Waddle, with letting him score there, or not letting him score, but he scored on one play. You know, not a lot of time was wasted there. If you have a whole drive just to get those 3 points, maybe the Packers don't score going into half because there's not enough time for it. You know, so I think that helped a lot actually.
Mhm.
Uh, Having that kickoff return, although I would have liked 7 on the board there. So
I would have too. But hey,
yeah, we can have nice things. You know, even when we have a really good kick returner and he has a huge return, we only get 3 points off of it.
But the nice thing was we had no flags on that.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I think I texted you that
You
with no
did.
flags. Or no, sorry, I think I tweeted it.
You
Was
did
that
tweet
there
it.
was no flags because we were talking last week. I don't know if anyone was listening to us last week, but uh, every time there's a big kickoff return or punt return, there's always a block in the back, and I was waiting for it. I am not celebrating. I see him running down the field, but just wait till the flag comes up on the screen. And it just didn't come this time, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And that's when once I saw there was no flag, I didn't even care about the return. I mean, obviously I cared about the return, but that's what got me excited was seeing no flag on the field.
Mhm,
Because every time they do that, he's had a few kickoff returns that came back, and I feel like they always block in the back or there's some BS holding call, whatever. This time they didn't call him, so
mhm. That's a nice thing, and now hopefully it happens this week for us. Hopefully, but I don't know.
yeah,
Uh,
I could look. That's a big game-changing play
it is.
to be able to get that many yards without the offense even being on the field.
Mhm.
And if it would have got 7 on that, it would have been even more game-changing. But again, I guess we can't have nice things there. But
Um,
no, I hope he's playing this week. I think he had a shoulder injury,
no, I think it was a groin, wasn't it?
groin or something. I don't know.
If something was between his leg,
But
that's
it
what I'm saying.
sounds like he's trending towards playing him and Christian Watson as well, which is big. And it sounds like Bakhtiari is coming back this week. So I mean, we are getting healthy at the right time. Unfortunately, we're not going to get Gary back this season. Obviously, I don't think Eric Stokes has any chance of him coming back this season. Um, so there's no reinforcements in terms of that. Who else is on IR that's like a really big contributor? I'm just trying to think.
We had Eric Stokes, Rashawn Gary. Wasn't there somebody? Oh, Dean Lowry.
That they
Yeah,
just put on, but that's all right.
it is.
If
Yeah,
anything, it's probably better. Let's get Wyatt in there, get some more
that's
snaps from him.
that's what I wanted. I wanted to see that.
But I guess maybe that's it. Maybe it's just Stokes
Well,
and
yeah,
Gary.
I don't remember. Oh, I don't know for like wide receivers. I just don't know because we
No,
finally.
they let
Yeah,
let go of Watkins, but that's a
yeah,
drop. Cobb
yeah,
was hurt, but he's back.
he's back.
Dubs was hurt, he's back. Watson was hurt for a while. Yeah, he's obviously back. I mean, well, he's technically hurt, but
Yeah, I think that's
um, yeah, I guess it's only really
because we've gotten everybody usually healthy, but no one's gone on IR. Like Campbell got hurt, but he came back
right, right. I mean, we've got knock on wood, pretty
healthy.
lucky with the IR, other than Rashawn Gary. I mean, that's a huge loss.
Yes, it does. I mean, I'm if Bakhtiari comes back, then I'm hoping that Zach Tom plays right tackle instead of Royce Newman because Royce Newman drives me crazy every time I watch him because he pulls a flag every time whenever I watch this kid or miss blocks. It annoys
But
me.
apparently, he didn't play bad
He
when
didn't
he
play
came in.
bad, but like
I can't say I
over.
watched every one of his snaps, but I just heard that I think Nagler was saying that he played well.
Yeah, because I
So
kept yeah, but the first drive I think it was he already had a false start. It was like the first drive he comes in, he's like false start. I was like, oh boy, already with this. Yeah, is what it is. Is what it is. All right, let's get to. I want to talk about another cool play I love was Alan Lazard blocking 3 people. That's an interesting thing. He blocks 3 people, not one, not two, but 3 people. 3 people. He did 3 people, and that reminded me of like a Home Alone trap. What was happening? Basically, just like pulled like the rope, and literally all 3 of them just like fall like their shoes were tied. That's an interesting thing about Lazard. He always is great at blocking, and that was a huge play too for the Packers on that play of AJ and Aaron Jones. So
yeah, I
yeah,
think that was a great play by Lazard. He was kind of in the right place, the right time,
he
though. I
was.
mean, I don't really think he knocked 3 guys. He just kind of got in the way, and they all ran into each other. Like,
That
I
was a
mean, I'm
fun.
not trying to take anything away from him, but
Yeah,
if they didn't run into each other and he was kind of standing there, that wouldn't have happened. But it was cool. It's a nice story. But no, I mean, he obviously had to be there. He obviously had to make the play. But again, there's no way to block 3 guys if they're not running right into each
yeah,
other. I don't know. I think it was blown up a little bit too out of proportion. I'm not saying he's not a good blocker. Right? He obviously is the best blocker in the team, but this just one scenario. I think it's more luck than anything else.
yeah.
But it was pretty cool. Yeah, I agree.
Mhm. And then I wanted to see this vintage Rodgers show, which he was not doing great like that entire game. He was like having an okay game, is what I would say. But this was the play of the game for Aaron Rodgers. That was like a That's like the same play I can remember from when the Packers played the Saints week 1 of that COVID season. that's the exact same play, but Mercedes, I think, scored a touchdown against the Saints on that one drive.
Your memory's better than mine. I didn't remember that, but yeah, that was a great play. That was the play of the game for me, honestly, because well, I guess it was on first down, right? But like if the Packers get stuck there, remind me how did that drive end? They scored, right? It was a touchdown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
touchdown.
How which one, touchdown was
I
that
think
again?
AJ Dillon's.
Yeah,
AJ Dillon
it was
scored a
AJ
touchdown.
Dillon's, right?
Yep.
And it made it. What was the score again?
I just want to watch the clip once again, folks, just to clarify.
Remember that. So yeah, so it made it 2020, and then yeah, they kind of
Yes.
what do you
Then
call it? Not propelled us into the rest of the game where I think we scored another touchdown after. What was it? What was the final score again?
uh, the final score of that game, it was 30-26, I believe. If I
I
am,
thought we held them. Yeah, no, it was 26-20.
oh,
So that was the last touchdown we scored, and we got 2 field goals,
yeah.
right? So, um, so yeah, so that was obviously big,
Mhm.
because we didn't get back, we didn't get into the end zone again. So that was huge, and I mean, it wasn't third down. For some reason, I thought it was third down at first, but it was just kind of in that part of the field where a lot of times we stall there,
Yeah.
and to make that play, kind of rolling out, and he comes down with it. That was huge, and some people say it was incomplete. I don't really think so. I think it was a catch. I think it was incomplete. They would have thrown the challenge flag there if
Yeah.
they had enough time. Uh, but I guess that it was a little bit close. But
Yeah.
either way, they got the playoff, and it didn't matter. So yeah,
Mm. Yep. The big underrated play I would say is Jaron Reed's fumble recovery against Raheem Mostert's. That was one of the big plays because that started like the whole thing for the defensive game, like confidence, even though Tua threw 3 picks. Like that defense gained more confidence and that kind of changed the momentum. Like that gave the Packers momentum. It's like Mercedes Lewis fumbling in the 49ers playoff game. But like this one, it's like this one gave us momentum and it whole started like the second half for us.
yeah, I think he had a good game. One of his probably the best game he has for season.
Mhm.
And that fumble obviously was huge.
Definitely. And then we see the vintage Jair Alexander post game, which was like one of the funniest like I've ever seen of like somebody like describing a play, but just like in the funniest way. Or it's like a Key and Peele, that TV show.
Yeah,
Where,
yeah.
that's how I would describe it, folks. That's how I would describe
Walk us
just
through
wow.
that play. What happened and how'd you grab it?
Oh man, that's easy. So I'm just lining up. I seen number 10 motion over. Hey Jones. Here. I seen number 10 coming across the field. I said, oh snap, he fast. So I bagged off. When I bagged off, I seen him coming. He ran right in front of me. I was like, wow, is he really overthrowing it? Huh? Took it down the sideline, turned over with my guys, gave the football to a little kid wearing 23.
I love it. Merry Christmas to you. I don't even have more to say.
Hey,
That was
Merry
fantastic.
Christmas. If you celebrate it, Merry Christmas. Go enjoy time with your family. We got the dub, baby. Pack is back.
Yeah, I like that one. I liked his ad libs too, like, um,
Funny.
yeah, and somebody put that over the play, which is cool to kind of see what he's seeing there. But yeah, I don't know. Tua made some bad throws. That was definitely one of them where kind of way over Tyreek Hill's head. I
Yeah.
don't really understand what he was looking for there. Maybe that's because he was concussed. I'm not sure, um, but yeah, that was a little bit of a
Gimme.
gimme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then there was Campbell had that one, but like Mostert ran the wrong routes because he wasn't looking behind him. So then because Campbell was standing right in the middle and he like, just stuck his hand like boop, and then he just got that's kind of a good pick for Campbell, unlike Jair's, which is just a gimme, but like this is kind of not a gimme. It's like, all right, I got a good pick out of it. But then there was Rasul, which Rasul just got it right off the bat. Like that was a great pick to end the game there.
yeah. I mean, that was a bad throw though. The Russell
Yeah.
Douglas. That was probably the worst throw of the day. But yeah, it was a nice pick. Big part of the game. That's where I think where we got the 2 field goals from. Right, was off those 2 picks,
Yep.
and obviously the third one to put the game away. But again, they weren't able to put them away by scoring touchdowns, which sucks.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I mean the defense definitely didn't lose it for us, which is huge. So
Mhm. Definitely. Definitely.
nice change of pace.
Exactly. All right. Let's get into our next topic, which is the Packers playing the Minnesota Vikings in Lambeau Field. It's supposed to be 30 degrees out there, folks. Woohoo. What are your thoughts of this game?
First of all, you better bundle up because Jeremy's going to the game. I
Exactly.
think
Yep.
he's on a flight tomorrow. I don't want to give the time out in case anybody's waiting to. What do you call it? No. Well,
Okay.
tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning is what
Tomorrow,
I'll say.
tomorrow morning.
So have fun at the game.
Thank you.
I probably should have went. It's New Year's. I didn't know if I was gonna be doing anything. I'm not sure if anything that happening, but I don't know. You already had this booked. It's tough for me to justify paying all this money to go out there when they're probably not going to make the playoffs. But hey, I was thinking about almost going to the Lions game because if the Lions game is likely probably a playoff game,
Yeah.
depending on how this week goes. But I don't think it's going to happen. Also, I'm actually going to the Bucks game in New York. I don't know if I told you that the Milwaukee Bucks,
Oh,
which is on Monday, January 9th. So if anyone's going there, hit me up. I'm glad to meet some fans in the or if anyone's going to the game Sunday, hit Jeremy up.
yep.
Not me. But yeah, if you're going to the New York Knicks Bucks game on January 9th, please let me know. We can meet up, have a beer, and talk about the podcast, or talk about the Packers, or whatever. I wonder if like Rossi's going. He might go. I bet you he's going.
He probably goes. He usually goes to the Barclays Center one in Brooklyn. He goes to that one, I know.
Yeah, I don't know, but um, they actually played not too long ago in New York. I forgot about that one, but
Yeah.
so we're going to this one instead. But yeah, it should be fun. But yeah, in terms of this game, what am I looking out for? I think the Packers need to get the running game going, and they need to stop Dalvin Cook just because of the weather. I think a lot of this is going to be on the ground in terms of running, but you also got to stop Justin Jefferson, obviously, because if he has the game he had against us week one, I don't think it's going to be a long day.
Yep.
So I think stop Dalvin Cook, stop Justin Jefferson, and if you could do those two things, I think you're probably in business. Um,
You gotta
you
watch
know,
out for Hawkinson because he went off for some reason in fantasy football. Went off in that random game.
really.
He had like over like 20 points of fantasy.
Hmm. Yeah, I lost last week in fantasy. I'm not even in any leagues anymore, so
Same.
don't talk to me about fantasy. I sucked this year.
I did
Um,
too.
I had a good team though, and I just lost last week because you know why? I bet against the Packers. Actually, I put Tua in, and I had Tyreek Hill in,
That
and
was
that
the
was a mistake.
so I told myself if I put two in, I'm gonna be sick if the Packers win and I lost in fantasy. So what I did, and it really didn't help me out much, was start Justin Fields. I didn't have
I had Joe Burrow actually, which would have given me like 13 more points. I think I still would have lost. I'd have to like do the research, but I should have put Joe Burrow in, and I was about to change it actually too, like 5 minutes before like the games kicked off. But then by the time I looked at it, the games had kicked off, and it was too late. But yeah, it's all right. Whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, I think this week, I think if we get the ball going on the ground, get Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon involved, and hey,
yep,
this is where AJ Dillon needs to make his money. Congrats
yep.
to him. He's having a child. He I think had his gender reveal the other day. I don't know if you saw that on
No,
Instagram.
I did not. I did not.
Him and his new wife. I remember I told you I knew some people that went to Boston College and knew him back in Boston College. So
Yep.
apparently he had some stories from back there that I was told, but I'll keep that to myself. Uh, but yeah, I mean he's got a lot going on in his family life and all that. So I think this is his time to shine. Like he's played better these past 2 weeks than he has the rest of it. I've been an AJ Dillon critic this year.
You have.
I have because I think he sucked for the most part. And I like AJ Dillon. Like I know, like I heard some interesting stories from college. Whatever, I'm gonna let that go. It is what it is. And I don't know the full story there. I didn't go to college with him. It was just stories. But anyway, this year though, he really has not played well until the past two games. But
No. Yeah.
the reason why we picked AJ Dillon, in my opinion, and the reason why he's an asset to the Packers and Lambeau, is when it gets cold, to grind out those yards, and be like the strongest guy, leg wise, below the torso, on the field, just to completely, run through some blocks and run through some tackles. And I think the Packers win that game against San Francisco last year if A.J. Dillon stays healthy and doesn't break his ribs on the special teams play.
Yep.
So if they could get A.J. Dillon going this game, I think it definitely could help us out. It's going to be tough to bring somebody down like that in the cold weather. You said it's going to be 30 degrees, so it's not going
It's
to be
supposed to.
super cold.
No, it's not. I mean, my dad was telling me like in the mid-20s. I'm like, it's not gonna be that cold compared to last year. It was like -1 degrees. I went to the
Yeah,
game with the Packers.
right. But if they can get A.J. Dillon going, I think that'll really help us. I mean, obviously Aaron Jones has to get more touches. I don't understand why. Even the last few weeks, I think they regressed in terms of the number of touches they've given Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
I even had some people in my group chats for fantasy reaching out saying, "What's going on with Aaron Jones' touches?" Because I think they had him on his team.
Yeah.
And I was like, "You just started watching the Packers, and they hardly ever give him the ball." Uh, so I don't know, but I think they need to control the clock, keep the ball on the ground. Uh,
Mhm.
and opportunistically get the ball in the air and throw. But if they can control the clock, get the ball on the ground, and stop Justin Jefferson and stop Dalvin Cook, and win the time possession game, I think this could go well for the Packers. I mean, the Vikings they were down 30 to the Colts. Somehow they came back.
Yeah.
They won last week, I believe, but the Giants almost came back against them.
Yep. They almost did.
So it's not like they're blowing teams out. They kind of just get lucky week in, week out,
Like a
which is
luck
kind of
out.
what the Packers did a few years ago, where people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this team's a fraud." They're winning, but they're winning ugly, right? Remember
Yeah.
that conversation?
Yeah.
That's kind of what the Vikings are doing right now. So they're definitely beatable, and we're home. If we were in Minnesota, it'd probably be tough.
Yeah.
But because we're home, I think we got a good shot.
You got a dome team out there this week. Domes.
Yeah, right. And then I think the Packers also have the momentum and the confidence coming off these 3 wins, and they have something to play for. What do the Vikings really have to play for this week? All right, so let's look into that.
You either get the #1 seed. That's a theory,
Well,
but
that's not
unlikely.
gonna
So
happen.
then you have to fight between the 49ers, between the second and third seed.
It's for the second seed, right?
Yeah, that's
That's what they're playing here. So if the Vikings win out, they have a 93% chance to gain the second seed.
Yes.
And all they need to do there is, well, I guess they get the second seed because it's either the first or second seed if they win out.
Yeah.
So they absolutely have something to play for. However, if
they lose,
so we have 425, right? So
yes,
if the Eagles win, right, and the 49ers lose, they're locked in at the second seed. So technically they could have nothing to play for if that happens, but that would require the 49ers being beat by Oakland, who just sat their quarterback. So
yeah,
I don't think that's gonna happen. Sorry, not Oakland, Las Vegas.
no.
So yeah, so they likely will have something to play for.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just like for the Packers wise, it's a lot better for us because then theoretically, if we make the postseason, we talked about this last week. If we make the postseason, we're more likely to face the 49ers than Minnesota. That's the possibility in Minnesota. If we win out, Commanders lose, and then you see that. So could go either way. So we would have to see about how that would go.
Right, that would require the 49ers to beat the Raiders this week and the Cardinals this week. So the only way the 49ers get the number 2 seed, is if the Vikings lose one of their 2 games.
Yeah.
And they win out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that would definitely be the case. And folks that don't know already, the Cowboys are winning 10-0 against the Titans.
Wait, actually, sorry, no, they need to lose both games.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, 1 second. Let me go look at the 49ers. So in order for the 49ers to get the 2 seed,
They just need. Well, they need 1 loss, I think.
they need
Because
the
Vikings just need to lose 1 time though. Because the Vikings, let's say they win, they win. Yeah.
No, they need the Vikings to lose twice.
What? No, they don't. I just did on the ESPN playoff machine. It's only 1. It's only 1. It's only 1.
No.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. No, yeah, you're right. Sorry. I had the Vikings beating the Packers. Right. So if yep, yeah, they don't need to lose once. Yep, that makes sense.
So the 49ers are rooting for this team this week. They're rooting for us.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, they definitely are. And yeah, it's probably likely that they beat the Raiders and the Cardinals. So
Yeah.
I agree. So if the Packers win, they're likely playing the 49ers week 1. I'm sorry. If the Packers make the playoffs, they're wild card weekend, they're likely playing the 49ers.
Yep.
However, if the 49ers lose to the Raiders, then more than likely it's going to be the Vikings.
Or if the Giants lose out, which is very unlikely, but that could be the case. So then
Right.
we would be playing
The
the
6th
Minnesota.
seed.
Yes.
So yeah, so the Packers still actually could be the 6th seed if we win out, the Commanders lose one game, and the Giants lose out.
Yep.
Right. And then that could, in theory, open us up to go to Green Bay for the championship game, but that's not good. What would that require? That would require the
7th seed to basically win it all.
Giants, right? No, I know that. Yeah, but who
Yeah.
would be the 7th seed in that situation?
It would either be the Giants, the Commanders, the Lions. It could be. So it would basically come down to us and one of the other wildcard teams for that to happen, which I don't think that happens at all.
So the Packers win. Giants lose. Sorry, I'm doing this. Do you want me to share my screen for this?
Yeah.
Let's share my screen. All right.
Got it.
Okay. So Packers win. Giants lose. Commanders lose. Packers 6th seed. Right now, the 7th seed would be the Giants. But let's say the Lions beat the Bears here. Then that's still the Giants. Let's say the Commanders win. It's still the Giants. So it looks like if the Packers are 6th seed, either way, it's the Giants.
Yeah. Because the Giants have the tiebreaker over the Commanders.
Right. So if we go to New York Times, just look at the Giants, what they need to get in.
Then we need a win and they're in to make postseason. They need one win.
Right, but we had them losing both games.
Yeah. Because then, what is it? Well, the interesting thing is the Lions beat the Giants. That's the interesting thing. So if the Lions beat the Packers, then the Lions maybe get ahead of the Giants there.
So it seems like there's something else I guess the Seahawks. Maybe the Seahawks is the biggest threat to them then. If the Browns, so in order for the Packers to get in now, oh sorry, so I guess the Commanders don't have to lose in this. Well, but then they would be the 7th seed, right? Is if the Commanders win both games, Commanders win, then the Packers are now 7th seed. Washington's the 6th seed, right?
Yeah.
So you do need Washington to lose one game in order for them to be a 6th seed. So
the Giants
Browns.
Giants are kind of in our picture of rooting though. They're kind of on our page of rooting, like, let's go.
Well, this is the Giants.
Yeah, well, the Giants are rooting for us a little bit though.
Well, I don't think the Giants are rooting for us, but so the only way that the Packers could be a 6th seed and the Giants are completely eliminated is this right here, where they lose out. The Commanders lose one game, and the Seahawks win out. That would be this is best case scenario for me right here. The Giants somehow get eliminated. The Packers are 6th seed. If this could happen, that'd be best case scenario for me. So that means I have to root for the Seahawks, which is fine because the Seahawks mean nothing to the Packers, right? At this point.
Well,
I guess if we lose this week, right?
That's the only case, but really not. That's it, unless somehow you want to tie. But no, it's just like they lose. You need the Seahawks to lose one, and then we're good. That's it.
Well, more stuff has to happen than that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But that's for the Seahawks wise. That's for Seahawks. But yeah, this should be definitely a good historic rivalry. The last time the Vikings swept the Packers was when Brett Favre was quarterback for the Vikings. Which That's interesting there. But yeah, so that's that. Next topic I got here is Devontae Adams might want out of Las Vegas. He might want out after Derek Carr got benched, and the only reason he came to Las Vegas was because of Derek Carr, his best friend. Now it's very unlikely that he gets. It's there's no way he can get traded back to Green Bay, but he could force his way out of Las Vegas. He could.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a situation where there really were no winners in that trade. I
No.
mean, I guess Adams got to play with Carr for a little bit. I guess the Packers look like probably the biggest winner here. I think Andy Herman did a video about this either yesterday or today, where he said the Packers probably the biggest winner. But even that, probably not a huge winner, other than the fact you have Christian Watson out of that, and you still were able to keep Campbell, Rasul Douglas, and also get Quay Walker.
Yeah.
But obviously had to give up Adams for that, which sucked.
Yeah.
But I don't think Adams won in any way by going to the Raiders and playing with his friend for less than a year, and the Raiders basically sucking for most of that time. I mean, I think Adams kind of showed he could do without Rodgers, which is good for his legacy a little bit. I mean, not his legacy within being on one team, but he shows that he's not just a system receiver or whatever, relying on Rodgers, which I didn't think, because when what do you call it? Brett Hundley was quarterback. He was the only thing that Brett Hundley had going for him was Adams.
Yeah.
And Adams really impressed me that year, because Brett Hundley sucked, but every time he threw it to Adams made a big play. So
especially against Cleveland.
Right. So that's right, exactly. Which I was at that game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the.
Is that why you're saying that, or
Yeah.
you're just saying that? Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that because we were cheering for the Browns, but that brings up a Browns memory with Packers.
Yep. Yeah, that was a fun game. But yeah, so it kind of sucks for him. He got home closer to home, which is what he wanted partially, but I think if hindsight's 2020, he probably preferred to stay in Green Bay this year, if everything, because if Devontae Adams on this team, I think we played, I definitely think we had more success than we did.
Yep.
I definitely think this is a playoff team. And I think, the big problem the Packers had this year was kind of the learning curve, and, Watson being hurt in the beginning, and just the time it took for them to kind of get up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of why, I'm still a little bit down on this team in terms of I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, because so many things need to go right. But if there's one thing I'm, feeling pretty good about, is that we are definitely trending in the right direction. Like, if the season was 20 games long, not 17 games long, I think we make the playoffs. I think this team is definitely trending upwards compared to downwards. It's just so many things need to go right. But if all those things go right, I could see this team going on a run in theory. I mean, they definitely look better than they did. There's no downside to that. I mean, there's no denying that. Are they a Super Bowl team? I don't think so still. But, I didn't see this turnaround coming, and me somewhat being impressed with the way they're playing, somewhat being entertained by the way they're playing. Again, I don't think that I'm super entertained.
No.
But, they're not playing bad. They're not playing terrible. But they're not playing good enough either. It's kind of like mediocre. And the worst case scenario is probably what's going to end up playing out, which is what I said a few weeks ago. If we're not going to make the playoffs, let's be as bad as we can, get as good draft pick again. The worst case scenario is we keep alive for a little bit, we feel good a little bit, and then we just miss it, right?
That's what's been happening.
That's what's probably going to happen. We're not going to make it, and we're going to get the worst draft pick, not being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, it is what it is. They gave us some fun during the time, but the one good thing we have going for us is maybe this is going to propel us into next season.
Yeah.
But if they somehow could sink into the playoffs, I mean, they could pull off a few wins. Like you said, I think the 49ers are going to be tough. Now, the difference there is they have Brock Purdy compared to, but they never really had a good quarterback. It's kind of like a system. You got Kyle Shanahan's system and a great defense. And that's always been the way that team has been. And we've never really played well against them.
Yeah.
Now, are they running the ball well this year? Who's their running back again?
Christian McCaffrey.
Oh shit! Yeah, right. Yeah. So there you go. I forgot that they got Christian McCaffrey. Yeah.
They got Debo Samuel too, bud. And then
Yeah.
they got the other guy, I forget Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah. I think the 49ers are going to be probably our toughest matchup in the playoffs, really. I think the Eagles are tough too, but probably the 49ers are going to be
I
the
think
toughest matchup.
I think the 49ers are the worst. Like I think they're
Yeah.
the best. I think they're the best team in the NFC. I just think that
They,
because of,
they yeah, they could definitely imagine if Brock Purdy brings them to the Super Bowl.
I would laugh if he wins a Super Bowl and then Jimmy G just sit on the sideline is like, well, I got a ring, but I didn't do anything. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think the Packers could beat the Giants. They beat the Commanders. I think they could beat the Cowboys. They already beaten the Cowboys, even though probably if you play them again in Dallas, they probably lose. Um, but I think they could beat all those three teams. I think they could beat the Vikings. I think they, in theory, could beat the Eagles, but I think it's going to be tough. I don't see them being the 49ers.
Well, for the Eagles wise, the good news, well, not kind of good news, but it helps us a bit, is some of the guys are hurt. Like Jalen Hurts is a bit banged up with like he's not going to run that much. And this is the thing I've always said about Jalen Hurts is he's Lamar Jackson, and I hate running quarterbacks. He's going to develop into like running less as years gets on because you don't see a running quarterback last that long in the league. You just don't. You'll see a guy mobile like Rodgers is, but you don't see like a fast, speedy guy like Lamar Jackson. He's been terrible since he won MVP, and that's just been the facts. And that's like the case for Jalen Hurts. I see. Like if we're gonna try and beat Jalen Hurts, they have to contain him. Like they can't force him. Like when we saw, there was one play. I think it was like the first drive. It was like Preston Smith goes in the outside. He leaves an open lane for Jalen Hurts to run out. Like that's a normal pass rush, but like Jalen Hurts knows that awareness right away. So you basically have to contain Jalen Hurts. And then the secondary is banged up too with one of the guys, CJ Gardner-Johnson, who got hurt in the Packers game. He got hurt. Lane Johnson, he's hurt on the offensive line, but he's going to play, but he's still banged up. So there's a bunch of like, and then there's Avonte Maddox, another CB. So Eagles are a little bit of like, they desperately need they're the team I think that needs the most of a bye, but I think the Packers can maybe pull off if we're able to stop Jalen Hurts, but I don't see that with Joe Barry's defense. 49ers, that's a tougher one, I would say, because the 49ers, they know what we do. They've known us for many years.
Yeah. And then you got Joey Bosa, who's probably the shoe-in defensive player of the year coming off the edge.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, Nick Bosa. My bad.
Yeah, but yeah,
Too many Bosas. But yeah, no, you're right, Nick Bosa. Coming off the edge, and I think that's going to be tough.
That would be tough. That would be.
Fred Warner too in the middle. Yeah, they got a good team, the 49ers. You know,
that's the one thing I'm always like annoyed is like whenever I watch him, like, all right, please don't let Bosa sack Rodgers because that's the one dude I always fear on that defense. He's the one guy I fear. Then it's Fred Warner.
Yeah, and they never have a great quarterback. Imagine if the 49ers had a good quarterback.
Imagine they drafted Aaron Rodgers.
I know. Imagine if they would have drafted Aaron Rodgers. No, they probably wouldn't have Nick Bosa, and they probably wouldn't have some of these guys. But and they probably would have Fred Warner. I mean, he was a late round pick, right?
Easily.
But Nick Bosa was what second overall pick. Yeah, so they probably wouldn't have him.
Yeah, that's what it'd be. That's how it'd be. All right, let's get to our last topic here for the night, folks, which is Hackett got fired in Denver. Who do you blame more of this situation? Was it more Hackett or was it Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I'd probably Hackett, and the reason why is that team just seems kind of like a completely disorganized. Between players fighting on the sideline and just they're not really giving all their efforts. So I think that kind of ultimately comes down to coaching and kind of maintaining, a locker room where there's motivation to play. And I just don't think, he from kind of the get-go, he really didn't have no control over that team, and it was kind of showed. Obviously, Wilson, I think, has been a nightmare in Denver, and I think the contract there is really the big problem. The worst situation Denver has is probably Russell Wilson's contract. Now,
Mm.
Hackett's contract still has to get paid, even though they fired him, which probably isn't great either. But it doesn't go against the cap, so it's just cash out the door. But it doesn't hurt your ability to compete.
Yeah.
Um, but Russell Wilson, it basically stuck with Russell Wilson. There's no getting rid of him,
No. There's
and unless they can fix him, which is what they're saying they think they can, but I think it kind of goes past just like his performance on the field. I think it's more kind of his relationship with other players on the team. They seem real frustrated with him. Like he just doesn't care. And it's interesting is he kind of didn't give me those vibes in Seattle where
no.
people seem to he seemed to be a likable guy in Seattle. Like he won the Walter Payton Man of the Year and all that stuff. Who knows? Maybe some of that was smoke and not smoke and mirrors, and it wasn't true. But he seems to be like hated in Denver.
I just don't. Yeah, I just think like Russell Wilson's been one of the most overrated quarterbacks for many years. Because what have you seen with Russell Wilson besides having Marshawn Lynch and the defense in Seattle? What have you seen? Nothing really out of him. You really see nothing out of Russell Wilson. Like you saw him definitely go in the playoff run because he had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, good receivers, but they never able to do anything out of that. Because after Legion Boo was gone, it was never the same for Seattle. It was never.
Do you think his success is one, his personality being somewhat interesting to like follow?
Yes.
Two, his marriage to Ciara,
Yep.
and three, kind of just a great team around him
Yeah. I
for
think
many years.
I think so. Well, the one thing I will always like I'll feel bad for Russ Wilson is offensive line. Seattle never addressed offensive line. They traded Max Unger, the center, for Jimmy Graham. I remember for again to New Orleans for him. Then in Denver, it's terrible. Like offense line is just so bad there. That's the one thing I always feel bad for. But I don't know if he had a good offensive line, then maybe it'll be a bit better. But still, like Hackett didn't have the scheme. Like they had the talent. They had Judy, KJ Hamler. They had um, other guys too. But like even the run game was like developing too, and they just weren't able to fix anything out of it. And the defense was amazing despite being terrible against the Rams last week, like blowout game. But overall, the offense just couldn't get anything done. Like Hackett, like he's the one who definitely deserved, like he deserved to have a job there, but it just wasn't working out with him, Wilson. It just wasn't.
Yeah,
It just wasn't.
yeah. I don't think it was working out. Yeah, I think it sucks. I think it's gonna be tough for someone to give him a job again after that. I
Yep.
don't think anyone ever gives him a head coaching job again.
No.
But maybe he's not cut out for it. I think I kind of talked about this last week, so anyone's interested, try to find that conversation. But yeah, I think he might be better role player for a coach than being the one where all the attention's on him
Yep.
and all the kind of all the what do you call it, the spotlight and the pressure to run the team. Like
Mhm.
I never really knew what he kind of did in Green Bay other than like you know he had the gold zone and all that. Like
Well,
he
he's
didn't
part of
call
the
the plays. Like
He was part
I
of like
think
the run game. That's what I knew him for. He was always part like he developed Leonard Fournette in Jacksonville. He helped Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams out there.
yeah, and I think he had like the red zone offense, which I mean I see the Packers red zone offense definitely took a step back. So I think
Yeah.
that definitely helped a lot. But I mean if all you're doing is focusing on the red zone offense, which is a small subsect of the game, a very important subsect of the game. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but a small subsect of to then think that you can make the jump to head coach. It's a little bit far fetched, and I think that's kind of what we saw here. Now, I thought he could have. I know hindsight's 2020. I'm not trying to give him a hard time, um, but I did have these kind of rumblings that he seems like a really cool guy, great personality, and I think that when he was introduced in Denver, everyone was like, "This guy's great," like we love it, like he's a real good personality. But is it kind of like Russell Wilson? Not that obviously Russell Wilson doesn't have that great personality, but he
No.
kind of like built a brand around him where people thought he was all this
Right.
greatness, right? And he got a lot of money from it, But then, when you kind of take away that facade, is it really what it all cracked up to be? Maybe it's kind of the same thing here with Hackett, where he kind of got lucky for a little bit being in LaFleur's offense. Not that I think it was just probably a good mesh of people, and they did play well with Rodgers, for a few years, and when it was just him alone in Denver kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I'd be kind of hard if you asked me to find like a worse starter a coaching career other than like maybe like Adam Gase, who still lasted in New York for a while, right? Like a year or
Yeah.
two.
He did.
Um, I'd be hard to find a worse start of a coaching career. I think he did get unlucky with like this whole scandal with Russell Wilson being annoying or whatever, and this let's ride Denver thing and all the bad publicity that came back. But he definitely didn't have control over that team,
I
so
would.
I
Yeah.
think he really failed.
I would say Josh McDaniels worse.
This year, though, I mean,
Well,
I'm not saying Oakland's great, but I mean, there's been some saving grace to Oakland, right?
boys, him as a coach.
Sorry,
Like,
not Oakland, Las
like,
Vegas.
well, with he was the head coach in Denver. Remember that? Like back then, and he traded Jay Cutler away. He traded like a great player for like nothing. Did
I
nothing
wouldn't
with
call Jay Cutler a great player. But
Okay. Well, I'm saying he traded a good, but at the time, he
starting
was
quarterback.
starting quarterback. He traded away for like nothing. He didn't develop Tim Tebow really that well, even though Tebow was good in college. And then he comes back to the Patriots, has the whole Belichick tree, whatever. And then he comes back to here and he doesn't do anything. Like he was like most Packer fans, including me, when we fired McCarthy, I wanted him because he was so good and everything. Like he knew it, but like overall, he just he's not the guy without like Belichick. Like whenever you like the rule is you never hire someone from the Belichick tree. That's the rule because how many coaches from the Belichick tree have panned out to success compared to the Shanahan tree?
I don't know. I didn't do the research on that one, but yeah, probably not much. I agree.
That's because the only one
Shanahan, though, you could see. I mean, he's got a lot. He's got Salah, right? The Jets. He's
yeah,
got
Mike McDaniels.
Mike McDaniels. Um,
He has Matt LaFleur's brother in Jets.
yeah, Matt LaFleur, and if you
Yeah.
think that he was under him in
Yep.
Atlanta, right?
Yep.
So, so yeah, I mean, I think Kyle Shanahan's probably the best coach you want in the league right now.
Yep. Compared, I mean, there's Sean McVay,
but Sean McVay's probably going to retire and become a sports analyst at some point.
Yeah, the only one that like
Andy Reid's a little bit older. Bill Belichick's a little bit older.
Yeah.
The one coach that is not going anywhere anytime soon is probably Kyle Shanahan. He's young, and I don't think he's going to lose his job anytime soon.
No.
Now, I'm not saying this is obviously. I'm talking about the next generational coach, so kind of like Belichick, where he's never going to lose his job. Like probably, I would say probably Shanahan's right now. Like what other coach is completely cemented in LaFleur, I guess, but not really. Like
I mean, he got extended though. That's the thing.
I know he gets extended, but I really think this year has kind of been a blemish on his.
Yeah.
He almost lost the game, like that fake punt that it probably was a bad decision. There was some other questionable decisions that was made in the game. I don't know. I'm a little bit down on LaFleur's performance this year. I gotta say, I love LaFleur, but I don't think anybody could sit here with their right mind and say that he's gonna be the next Kyle Shanahan. I mean, you could see Kyle Shanahan takes a team with
nothing
quarterback, right, and makes it into perennial playoff contender.
Exactly.
So,
there's John Harbaugh in Baltimore.
Yeah, but he's getting old. I'm more saying like a young guy that is proven 100%.
Zach Taylor for the Bengals.
Yeah, but he's only had a few years of success right now. But I agree. I think he kind of falls in the LaFleur picture.
You could put Nick Sirianni, but I just don't. I'd not give it.
He's only had 1 year.
Yeah, he was terrible.
Give him some more time. Yeah.
There's, I mean, Ron Rivera's gonna get fired. Brian Dable could have a shot, maybe.
Yeah, he's only 1 year.
I mean, I see the Giants just having to rebuild after this offseason because they have to deal with Saquon and Daniel Jones contracts. I see that with that team. I see them I just think it's a miracle how the Commanders and the Giants somehow win these games, but no one expected them to really. That's a surprising thing to me. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Think it's good to close?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it'd be an interesting week. This final thoughts. The Packers need to win, obviously. If we win, I feel pretty good going to next week. I mean, I think.
Yeah.
Do I expect to lose to the Lions twice in 1 year, especially when we're at home this time? I don't think so. So, if you could win this game, and somehow the Browns lose, I'm feeling pretty good going to next week. But
You mean the Browns win?
sorry, the Browns win. Yeah. Maybe I'm gonna get some sleep or something. I've been wrong a lot this episode.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I'll be going to the Packers game. So if anyone is going to the game, comment below and let me know. I'll be out around there. Yeah. So if anyone wants to say hi to me, I'll be there. I'll be sending. Might be doing some Twitter stuff if I can on our Twitter, or if I can't send it, I'll send it to you right away because the Wi-Fi is terrible at the game. Because like there's like one spot I go at the game, it's like right by the entrance, and I stand there just to get some Wi-Fi. It's like ridiculous. The
You're
Wi-Fi is
sitting in
crazy.
your seats, or you have other seats?
Sitting, no, well, we're not sitting in the usual seats that I always get with my dad. We're sitting like I think like a couple rows back, but like the ones last year we got, that's the one I'm gonna get.
So you bought them
Yeah.
separately, or
So my brother's coming out with me and my dad, and it's gonna. Well, he bought them separately,
got it?
and then
Okay.
and then what else? Oh, and then my dad has a 50-yard ticket. Like he has a 50-yard like where you would sit. He has a ticket there for like part of his season ticket. Also, he gave it to my cousin, so he's coming to the game with us.
Oh, but he's sitting somewhere else.
Yes, sitting somewhere else.
Got it. All right, well, have fun. Let us know how it goes, and you definitely, yeah, you have access to the Twitter, right? So you could definitely post, maybe get some, fan engagement. If
But I'm gonna
we,
try.
we got to get some merch, you got to walk around the stadium with our podcast.
We just carry the G like what Cheese at TV does every day.
Yeah, we
I
got
could.
to put our logo on there.
I'll try to see if I can get another Darth Vader photo because that dude loves me when I took a photo. Or the Frozen Tundra guy. That dude, he's with the icicles. He's so cool. He's pretty cool.
Do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll let you go because I know you got to get some sleep so you don't miss this plane.
Yep. All right, folks. That'll do another edition of Pack Reacts. We'll be here next year, folks. Next year because we won't be here because it's the end. We'll see you in 2023, and hopefully the Packers win this Sunday, folks. Hopefully. But as always, folks, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.